Welcome everyone. Good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you're joining us today from. And thank you for coming and joining us for the webinar today. The topic that we're talking about is key challenges and um, best practices that you have to cover when you are planning for your migration from IBM Notes to Office 365. And we will go into more details of what agenda we will cover, but maybe a quick round of introductions. I'm Chirag Barhate. I'm a Director of Customer Success here at Maarga. Uh, Primary job for me is to be a customer advocate and understand their pain points and problems and help to convert that into solutions for them and deliver those solutions to them. So I would be playing a similar role in today's webinar where I would be the customer's advocate and I'll be bringing out the key questions that I hear frequently from my clients. And to answer those today, we have Gulab Prasad with me, who is our SME on the Office 365 and migration space. Gulab, can you do a quick introduction?
Sure. Thank you, Chirag. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, wherever you're joining from today. My name is Gulab Prasad. I'm with Maarga Systems, working as an architect for Office 365 and other Microsoft platforms. My roles here is to go ahead and plan, deploy, design, and migrate Notes to Office 365, Exchange to Office 365, any other messaging solutions to Office 365. And I'm pretty excited today to have every one of you on board for this webinar. And we're going to have really interesting session today. And I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you, Gulab.
Mm-hmm.
So Maarga Systems has been a premium IBM partner for over a decade now. We have predominantly worked a lot in the Notes, Domino, and workflow space. Over the years, we have also expanded our technology capability to other areas, including entire Microsoft stack around Office 365, SharePoint, and other areas, as well as enterprise social and enterprise digital are some of the key areas that we work in. We have a presence in US, where we have an office in New Jersey and a larger office in India, whereas our customers are generally across the globe, and we work with them from whatever geographies they are, either in Europe or US or Middle East. So that's a quick introduction to Maarga. With that, I would like to move on to the agenda for today's webinar. And as you would have read it from the topic, we are primarily going to discuss what are the key considerations, key challenges that you would come across when we are talking about migration from Notes to Office 365. And then we have a free webinar offering. We'll come to that later. Towards the end of the webinar, we will also talk about another interesting topic which is relevant for every migration scenario, which is around enablement and adoption on the target platform. Now, what we have done is, if we have not answered all your questions, all the key questions that we see during the webinar, we also have set of 10 questions that we would try to answer towards the end of the webinar if we have missed anything. And if still any questions are left out, we obviously have a Q&A time where you can key in your questions into the chat window, and we would be happy to answer whatever we can in today's session. So before we go further, I would like to understand our audience today a bit better so that we can tune in our conversation to suit the audience that we're talking to. So Scott, if you can help me run the first poll, it would give us that idea.
Okay, perfect. So where are we in your journey? So if you will select one of these, let us know whether you're planning, it's still ongoing in terms of the migration, or you've completed email migration but still looking at how to migrate your applications. So this is great. Everybody is really awake. Over 70% of us have already voted. So let's get a couple more votes in, and then I'll share the results. All right. There we go. We're over 80%. So let me share the results, and it'll come up on your screen. So 74% of us are still planning, 9% of us are in ongoing migration, and 17% have already completed email migrations of applications pending. All right, thank you for your information, and the poll is always a fun thing to do in the webinar. Chirag, Prasad, Gulab, back to you.
Thank you, Scott. So that's interesting to know, I think, and we see that most of our audience is in the planning phase. So this would be relevant, I feel, because we will talk about these three phases, which is the planning phase, pre-migration, then actual migration, and the post-migration consideration. So that's how we'll go about in today's webinar. And I just wanted to quickly emphasize on why we are talking about this at this scale, because there are a lot of migrations, mail migrations from one platform to another that usually happen. In this case, there are two important aspects to this particular migration. First is it's not just a software change, it's an ecosystem change. For all the customers that I have known, especially the IBM shops, they have been ingrained into the IBM technology stack, and whether it's the people in their internal IT or the IT management, all of them have been having a significant background on the Notes Domino arena. And for them, it's a big change when you're moving to a new ecosystem, which is the Microsoft ecosystem, and a lot of concepts change. So that's the first difference. Second, which is sort of underlying difference, is a fundamental change of moving from an on-prem setup to a cloud-based environment, and that really changes the entire paradigm for the way you did support, the way you did maintenance, the way you handled upgrades and new feature releases. All of it has to be reconsidered and thought of in a different way. So I think that's what makes this interesting, and that's why planning is very important to get onboarded onto the idea of what you would have as a target system. So with that, I think we would like to then hear more from Gulab. So over to you, Gulab.
Thank you, Chirag. Okay, so now before even we talk about migration from any application from application X to application Y, uh, first thing comes in your mind or everyone's mind is what's going to be the next technology and how my users are going to feel about it. Are they going to be ready for it? How I should go ahead and plan? How it's going to go ahead and affect my existing infrastructure? What is required to go to a new platform, so on and so forth. So there are a few things we need to either you need to consider before you migrate or even you plan to migrate to Office 365 from your Notes environment. Now, first thing is my organization or your organization is ready for this migration? Right. Migration is a big project. It requires a lot of investment. A lot of approval needs to be taken from the management, application owners. Are they ready for it or not? So on and so forth. So organization, in terms of management part, it is very, very important. Again, next is what about my environment? Technical environment, right? My network is ready. What about my bandwidth? My existing bandwidth is going to support Office 365 or not? Because on premises, I'm going to go ahead, a user is going to come to my environment, just going to log into the domain, access my on-premises server. I mean, you can run it, right? But when we move to Office 365, it's all about the bandwidth, how much network I have. Is my existing bandwidth is going to support this migration? So for example, if I have 100 mailboxes or 100 users, existing environment is supporting, there are a few glitches, there are a few issues, but that is fine. But when I move to Office 365, requirement will be changed. So that is one important aspect of considering migration from on-premises Notes environment to Office 365. Now, I want to give a little more attention on networking part because today we are discussing on mailing migration, specifically to the email. Now imagine when you go ahead and start deploying other services in Office 365, right? So for example, other services you have like Skype for Business, SharePoint, OneDrive, Yammer, so on and so forth. So how are we going to go ahead and tackle that with that limited bandwidth? So before even we plan anything, to migrate to Office 365, network bandwidth is one of the biggest aspects we need to keep in mind before we start migrating or even planning for this. Chirag, can you go back to the other slide, please? Thank you. All right. Now, next is, okay, I am in a Notes guy, for example, and I want to move to Office 365, and I have 10 people in my team. Are these 10 people, including myself, are they ready for Office 365? I mean, do all we know how Office 365 works? Some of us might have, learned ourselves that how Office 365 is. Few services like Exchange Online, SharePoint, or Skype for Business Online, so on and so forth. So this is also very important. I'm sure it's one of the most important aspect of the migration, because tomorrow when we are in Office 365, it's me, my team, all of us is going to take care of Office 365, how we're going to manage it. So the training is very important. What I have seen, or rather at Maarga, what we have seen is uh, when we go ahead and migrate to Office 365, out of say 10, for example, 10 IT admins, there are only few people, like 2 or 3 people, they must have been heard about Office 365. They might know how other applications in Office 365 works. But when they go ahead and start managing it, they feel like, okay, we need to polish our skill on this. We need the training. So that's where, when it comes to the managing of the Office 360 environment, then the roadblocks comes, because my IT team was not ready and I went ahead and migrated my notes to Office 365. So the training on Office 365 for my IT team is very, very, very important. So when you go ahead and plan to migrate to notes to Office 365 and you talk to your boss, hey, I need a training on Office 365 for me and my people, then you tell them that, okay, end of the day is we going to manage it, so we need to know how the product works. So yes, we're going to need the training. Now, next thing is your users. Uh, Users should be ready for it. Yeah, of course they should be ready for it. There's going to be the new application. Now we're not going to use Notes anymore to access my emails and other services. I'm going to use Outlook. Now there are different flavors. How we're going to use? Are we going to use Outlook 2013 or 2016? Other application comes along with Office Suite. So my user needs to be ready for that. I need to prepare my user as well, train them, create some video session for them, have a PowerPoint presentation. If you are having a multiple people in your IT team, schedule a training session, probably an hour or two, with the end user. Then go ahead with the training session with them, and go ahead and tell them how the big change is going to be and what you're going to be using, how the new experience is going to be. So that's going to be very helpful, because end of the day, it's the user who's going to bring all the questions that, okay, hey, I'm in this new application and I do not find that thing like the calendar, the contact, the email, so on and so forth. So it's very important. Now again, end user training, as we spoke. So these are the consideration, a main consideration when you go ahead and start even planning for Notes to Office 365 migration. And one thing I want to put it here for everyone up here is, when we plan for any kind of migration, specifically for the messaging, because it's a backbone of our business, we would plan 100% out of it. But I'm sure if anybody in our environment, anything from the management comes, okay, hey, I need this, I need that, this is not going to work. So we need to make sure that we cover every aspect of the planning portion, then we go ahead with the migration. So that's what you need to consider before you start even thinking of migrating. Chirag, can you take me to another slide? Okay, so we have divided this in a 3-stage process, basically, pre-migration, during migration, and post-migration. Now, what we do, or what you need to do, or what we need to do when we go ahead and do a pre-migration process, what do we need to do? And next would be what we need to do, or what you need to do for things we need to do is during migration. And the next part is the post-migration. So in a pre-migration, okay, so I am running, say, a 10,000 seat environment in Notes. Uh, what type of migration is going to be suitable for my requirement, right? So if I give an example of 10,000 seats environment and I have 500 seats environment, I have say 2,000 seats environment. So requirement would be different as compared to a different organizations, of course. So, and another thing is what kind of tools I'm going to be using, or do I need a tool at all, or I can go ahead with my native Microsoft tools like a PowerShell or Azure. These kind of tools I can use to go ahead and initiate or start and complete my migration, because I'm running a small shop. I'm not running 10,000 or 20,000 user seats. So that is also very important. Now, I'm sure you already, everybody in this webinar, what kind of migration is available here. So is it going to be the hybrid? Hybrid is going to suit my requirement? Yes or no? Is it going to be the staged? Am I ready for the stage migration? Is going to be the cutover migration? Because I feel like my environment is ready to cut over in a snap of finger from Notes to Office 365. This is what we need to plan here, and what kind of tool we will be using. Now the tool would be, there are a lot of tools available in the market. I'm sure everybody is aware of it. Now, if you are running in the hybrid environment, then there are a few well-known products in the market. They provide their services for hybrid migration, and you can go ahead and use that. I think I'll take an opportunity or a leverage here to name few tools here. Binary Tree CMT is one of the tool. Quest is one of the tool here. Priasoft is one of the tool. Really famous in the market for hybrid migration from Notes to Office 365. Now, next is onboarding your organization to Office 365. Now, onboarding process is pretty straightforward. I just need to go ahead and onboard my organization to Office 365, and my IT team is going to have a feel of it, like, okay, how my Office 365 is going to be, and what are the services I'm going to use, what are the services available, and how we're going to get these services back to our end users. So onboarding is one of the stage in pre-migration. Now, important aspect when it comes to the licensing. Now, I can understand, and I have personally felt it when I go to the finance for the approval that, okay, I need 10,000 licenses for, say, E3. E3, I need 10,000 licenses, and for even I need 8,000 licenses. Then, okay, I need to convince my finance team that, okay, these are the necessary licensing I need, because without this, our environment is not going to run. So planning for the licensing is very important. Trust me, it is very important, because personally we have at Maarga seen that an organization has bought 10,000 licenses and they're not even using it. They're just paying for it, they're not using it. So even before we start, migrating this licensing, we need to make sure that, okay, I need 10,000 license. Okay, if I go ahead with 10,000 license, is all licenses going to get utilized? Yes or no? So make sure you plan for the licensing way before you go ahead and start migrating or even initiate the migration to Office 365. End user expectations. So being an IT guy, I can feel the pain that when I'm doing a migration from Notes to 365 or Exchange to 365, I would go ahead and start the migration. Next I come to Office and I get a bombardment from the users. Hey, this is not working, that is not working, and I'm not getting that information when I used to see in Notes. Where is my calendar? Where is my notes? Where is my contacts? I don't see those information. So setting up the expectation with the end user is very important. Send them notification emails that, okay, well in advance, because we're going to go ahead and going through a big change in terms of technology. Now, how the new technology is going to look like, how the user experience is going to be. So you need to be prepared for that. Everybody does. I mean, I've been into industry since more than, I think 14 years, 10 plus years with Microsoft. I have done tons of migration. I don't even remember how many I have done along with my team. And trust me, there would be people would be coming to you asking you questions, no matter how many times you tell them that this is what we had expected. So, prepare yourself mentally and as well as the technically to answer this question of the end users. So setting up
So
expectation
Gulab,
for, yep, go ahead, Chirag.
sorry to interrupt. So since you're talking about end users, one of
Mm-hmm.
the common questions that I hear
Mm-hmm.
is what is the plan for office deployment for your end users? Because that first that has to be considered before we start considering how they are going to use it. So can you shed some light on that?
Oh, absolutely. Thanks for the question, Chirag. So, okay, now from Notes, I'm going to move to Office Suite, right, which going to have Outlook, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, OneDrive, Skype for Business, so on and so forth. So how you are going to go ahead and deploy it? So what are the options? What are the opportunities I have to deploy this product? In your existing environment, are you using a system center suite? If yes, I mean, it's good for you. I mean, you're spending a lot of money on that, so you can utilize it. Are you going to use a third-party tool like Semantic to deploy it? Or, you don't want to spend a lot of money on it, right? Okay, I'm already spending so much of money on Office 365. Why would I go ahead and buy just System Center Suite or anything like Semantic? I can go ahead and use a feature called a group policy, right? Active Directory group policy, and deploy my Office using group policy, because that's where I can save money. So this is how the planning should be. That okay, when it comes to spending money, I'm sure every one of us have felt it. That okay, I'm not gonna approve it. This is unnecessary. Find your own way to deploy the solution or that solution. So fortunately, we have the choice here that we have a native solution available with Microsoft platform itself, a group policy, using group policy. We can go ahead and deploy our Office Suite for our end users. And uh, next is my admin team and their accesses to Office 365. Now, I can give an example here with my existing client I'm working with. It's one of the biggest clients in Europe. We here at Maarga working with the client for migrating them to Office 365 from Notes. If I have to give a number, they are close to 50,000 seat environment. Now, do I really need to give a full admin rights to my team members, right? IT team members? No. The answer to that question is no. Now, this is where you need to segregate who's going to handle what, right? So out of 10 people, say 2 or 3 people is going to have a global admin, and other people might have a different services. Like, okay, so some of them going to have exchange admin rights, some of them is going to have an SharePoint rights, some of them going to have a Skype for Business, or some other rights, which is security admin or so on and so forth. So distributing these access is very important. I'm sure you're going to agree with me that everyone should not have a global admin right, because it just take a fraction of a second to make any changes, and if the changes is not correct, I mean, everyone is going to get affected to it. So we need to understand, or we all need to understand, what kind of rights or what kind of access I need to give to my admins in Office 365. Now, um, I'm sure if you're looking at it, what Office 365 services needs to be disabled, you might be thinking, okay, why I would need even to go ahead and disable any service in pre-migration itself, right? Okay, so let me give an example. It's a real life example. I have learned the hard way. Um, so I'm sure everybody heard about the feature or the application of the service called Planner, right? So if I go ahead and do not do anything for this planner, out of the box, planner is available for everyone, for every user in Office 365. Now imagine a scenario. Everybody starts creating a plan for themselves. I mean, there is no restrictions, there is no policy, there is no POC for this, and there is no SOP for this, like how to create it, what should be the naming standard, do I even need it? Or because I'm an end user, I'll just go ahead and log in, I'll see something like, okay, there's something called Planner. Let me go ahead and see how does it works. And I start creating it without even realizing what would be, the end effect for my admin, right? As an end user, that's how I would feel. So you need to make sure that how and what are the services you need to disable. Planner is the one service I would recommend you disable. Office 365 group is one service I would expect you to disable. Microsoft Teams is the one I would recommend to go ahead and disable. My recommendation for every one of you would be here is to go ahead and when you do and when you plan for this migration, disable these free services straight away. Do not give these features, these services to the end user just out of the box. Trust me, if you do, you have to do a lot of work to revert those damages. So just make sure, if you want to note it down, Office 365 group, Microsoft Teams, and Planner. Just go ahead and disable it on the org level itself, and then you go ahead and start with the migration portion. Right, so we're gonna go ahead and jump into next slide here, the evening migration. Chirag, thank you. Now, during migration, so when migration is happening, what an admin would be doing? What is the most important part of during migration? Monitoring is one of the most important factor of migration. Now, why I say monitoring? Because I need to, as an admin, need to make sure that, okay, every migration for every user is going flawlessly. If there is any issue, what is it? And I need to report it. And that is the reason we have included monitoring and reporting in this during migration. Now, for the monitoring, what are the options? We have native options. Here I'm specifically talking about a native option. Now, Office 365 admin portal is one we have. Windows PowerShell is one we have. Now, you can customize the monitoring using as per your requirement using Windows PowerShell. Now, I want to monitor, okay, so the migration is going on. What are the things getting migrated? How many percentage it's been done? And if there is any failure, how are we going to go ahead and report it? That's when the reporting comes in a picture. Now, reporting. I'm sure you must have been heard about it in the market. There are a lot of tools available in the market, which does really good reporting. But straight away, I just don't want to go ahead and start spending on reporting just like that. So what are the options I have in reporting? Reporting out of the box, I have, of course, Office 365 Admin Center, and I have a PowerShell, right? And I have other APIs like, I have a REST API, EWS for specifically for Exchange Online. So using those native tools, I can go ahead and, generate or create my own reporting. I can go ahead and schedule it on any of my workstation, or if I have any server running my environment, I'll go ahead and run it, and it will find a lot of reporting that, okay, so these databases or these mailboxes got migrated, how much time it took, and how much data we got migrated from on-premises nodes to Office 365, what are the status, so on and so forth. Now here I want to put forward a few tools which are available in the market, and I would really appreciate if you can go ahead and check it yourself. I find it at Maarga that these are really good tools. One tool I really liked about was Forward. Forward is a tool. Forward is a tool for Office 365 basically, and they do reporting for a lot of services. Trust me, they do reporting for Exchange Online, SharePoint, Yammer, Skype for Business, Intune, and EMS. I mean, if you can go ahead and explore this with their tool. eNow is one of the tool I have seen, and they are pretty good. So these are some of the tools which we have experienced here with Maarga for reporting with Office 365. And trust me, I can feel the pain when my manager will ask me that, hey, I need this reporting and I want to know what are the status of this service and how many users are this, what the license is, who are using what services, so on and so forth. So I have to go ahead and start a PowerShell script from the grassroots, because out of the box my portal does not gives me that leverage to go ahead and pull those kind of information. So I have to play around with APIs like a REST API, EWS. So that's when this reporting tool might be helpful for you. Now, licensing, as we discussed, licensing is very important. Now here I wanted to talk to you about, is my user gonna use the entire E3 suite or no, right? So there are users who are just say they are in a store, they are in a storage area. There are 10 people who work in a storage, but they still need an access. There are somebody is always on the go, but they just gonna need an email. They're gonna not gonna need say Skype for Business or anything else. Then why would I need to buy an E3 license or an email license for those kind of users, whereas then I can go ahead and get them an Exchange Online Plan 1 or Plan 2 licenses. So this is also very important to go ahead and assign those kind of licenses to those users, which not going to use the entire suite of that services in Office 365. So just keep an eye on the licensing part, because it's really important. Now next portion here would be the compliance. Now, compliance is a very important aspect of any organization. Now, given on-premises, compliance could be, taken care by my own, environment. I have to just follow some of the compliance depending on my geographical location, because I'm hosting my resources in my on-prem environment. So I don't have to worry about any other compliance which applies to some other location across the globe. But when your data is in Office 365, and your country's compliance or your office compliance, your geographical location compliance does not allows you to access the data which belongs to some other geographical location, then there is a problem. I'm sure every one of us know that what happened last year when European Union created the rule, or created a law rather, that a user in European Union should not access their resources which are in North American data center in Office 365. And we felt that pain, and we could not access the Outlook because my data was residing in North America data center. So that is the important aspect now during the migration. Make sure that compliant policies in really followed, because I'm sure you don't want to end up at the location, or rather in a situation that compliance has been uh, not met. So that is the important aspect of compliance. And one more example I want to give here in compliance was, I'm sure you remember when the planner was launched in Office 365. Uh, Initial phases, it was the data was stored in North American data center. So when a user is in European Union and they are accessing that planner data, and which is residing in Office 365 North America data center, they are not supposed to access it. So there were a lot of people, they ran into the trouble, and they had just enabled their planner for the user without realizing that they are accessing the data from North American data center. So just keep in mind, keep an eye on it, just because you want to maintain your compliance policy 100% to it. Chirag, can you move to the next slide, please?
Sure, Gulab. I had one question which
Sure.
often comes is during
Mm-hmm.
migration, you talked about monitoring, you talked about reporting. If we identify that something went wrong, a particular data did not migrate or a user did not migrate,
Mm-hmm.
how is the situation handled then? How does IT team go about it?
So there's a failure. Basically, during migration, the mailbox fails, right? So what
Yeah.
happens is when the mailbox fails, then I have my data here in 365 because the entire migration was not completed. So that user will still remain on my notes environment, and I have to go ahead and look what basically went wrong. So I have to see the logs, right? Okay, what failed basically? Was it the endpoint was a failure, or the corruption in the mailbox, or some data was corrupt, or and could be the issue with the permission, so on and so forth. So I have to go through with the logs in this and see what's going on with the logs, and if I find the solution, just go ahead and correct that in a notes environment, then go ahead and start initiating the migration for that same failed migration user. Now um, given that you are migrating, say, in batches, whereas in you have, say, 500 user, right? And out of 500, say, 20 user failed. So I'm sure this is the practice which I follow basically. So I'll go ahead and pull those logs for those 10 users and see if these failures are same for everyone or not, right? If it is everyone, that means there is something wrong with these user mailboxes in my notes environment. So I'll go ahead and prepare myself for the same kind of failure which might occur for other users as well. So I'll prepare myself, I'll go ahead and fix that thing in my notes environment, then I'll initiate the migration for those users again. Chirag, thank you. All right, so post-migration, right? Post-migration is I personally call it that, okay, this is a very, very exciting stage, right? Now, this is where we test everything. This is where everything comes on our head, right? Oh my God. If there is anything wrong, then how are we going to tackle it, right? So this is where the planning has to be done, right? So UAT is one of the important factor. I personally feel that I have to do personally myself. I have to have my team ready, do the UAT, make sure we are able to access everything out of it, access everything what I was or consider user was doing in Office Notes environment. So UAT is very important. Make sure you are able to access every resources in Office 365, given a mail, calendar, contact, anything else which comes into mind in terms of email, right? So UAT is very important. Now, I have seen, and this is been known across the industry, that people might see that sometimes they see that when I migrate from Notes to Office 365 or Exchange to Office 365, for that matter, any messaging solutions to Office 365, some user might feel that, okay, I'm not able to update my old calendar entries. And I'm not able to see my contacts. So what happened to those contacts? Now, to put these technical issues specifically in the post-migration slide here was because personally I have seen, now you can only imagine a user who is like a management level or director level, and he or she is not able to update, or her assistant or his assistant is not able to update the calendar entries. How painful and the escalation is going to be, right? This is not happening, this new service is not working the way we expected, so on and so forth. So prepare yourself for post-migration technical issues. These are the two issues what I have seen personally, that old calendar entries cannot be updated. And one more thing I wanted to add here was, it is very rare, but I have seen it that old email I cannot reply it basically. When I go ahead and reply to my old emails, I get an NDR. So just keep in mind, these are 2-3 issues which you might face in your own migration. We spoke about end user training already, how you're going to take care of the end user training. Compliance, we already spoke about it. Now, post-migration compliance, what kind of compliance available out of the box for Office 365? What kind of rules I need to create in Exchange online Exchange portal that it follows my compliance. HIPAA is one of the compliance. There are several other North American compliance policies available already, rather than you don't have to create anything personally from yourself. So just make sure it's already all been followed. That's where the planning phase comes, that you would have a separate, I would say a few pages of document which talks specifically about the compliance. So after a post migration, that's very important. Make sure you tested everything. It is fine, and legal team is fine with it. Everything is working the way it's supposed to be, and then you should be good. Uh,
Gulab,
SOP, go ahead.
what about third-party integrations in this case? Because one of the key things that comes after you have migrated is, I used to work with XYZ system when I was in Lotus Notes, and now
Mhm.
what are the integrations possible? How do I continue to work in the same way? So can you also explain a bit about that?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, brilliant question. Right. So IBM Notes is known for their customization, right? I can customize my notes the way I want. Matter of fact, we had this question from one of our attendees that he had, or he or she had the question about it. We'll talk about that later. Now, third-party application, right? So is my third-party application will be working with it? Uh, my application should communicate to Office 365, and it should go ahead and send some emails, some notification. For example, Jira. Jira should work with my Office 365 for ticketing system. Yes or no? How is going to work? What are the protocols required? Now, some application might be, in-house, custom-built application, right? So what are the protocol required for it? Is it going to require any specific protocol? Is it available with Office 365? Yes or no? uh, Specific to the emails. Okay, I want to use only POP protocol for my application to talk to on the mailboxes in Office 365. Now, these are the things we need to consider it before, that's where comes in my planning. Of course, in a post migration, then you need to test it, right? Go ahead and test it out. If it's working fine, if it's not working fine, if it's in-house application, then in-house application, the only solution is, we go ahead and go back to our team and talk to them. Hey, this is how it is, and how can we go ahead and fix it? And if you're using a third-party application like a Jira is in one ticketing system, I give an example of you need to go ahead and check it out. Okay, Jira is going to work or with this 365, yes or no? So integrating. Now, as Chirag asked about third-party, right? So Relay. Relay is a really interesting part of any organization, specifically when we move to Office 365. So what about my Relay? How my application is gonna handle the Relay? So what are the options do we have for the Relay, by the way? The option we have is, if you want to move to Office 365, Relay is available. You can use IP address, you can use SPF record for the Relay. Now, your application or your requirement is that you do not want to use SPF record, right? You want to use an IP address. Yes, you can do that. You can use an IP address to do your Relay. You can do that. But okay, I want to stay with my on-prem. For example, I just want to Relay. If you want to just stay on-prem for the Relay, you can go ahead and do that. SMTP server, just go ahead and install SMTP server, configure the Relay for that, and your Relay would be working as usual. So Relay is one of the most important factor when we are moving to Office 365. SOP and policy for Office 365. Now, remember I told you those 3 applications which you need to disable. Trust me, you will want to disable it. Office 365 groups, Microsoft Teams, and Planner. So make sure you have a dedicated SOP for these 3 applications written. I mean, it has to be written given the experience which we had with one of our clients. We did not had it prepared. The client did not had it prepared, and we went ahead and enabled it because they just wanted to have a feel of it, and people started complaining that this is just going out of control. So learned from a lesson learned hard way. Make sure you have a SOP created, and policies is also created. That okay, I want to create an Office 365 group. How should I create the group, right? What should be the naming standard, right? How should be the email address? How should it look like? Does it require any approval for it, or I can just go ahead and initiate a request and go ahead and create an Office 365 group? Because as a end user, I want to experience is like how it's going to be working, how it's going to look like. I mean, is it something special? Being a human being, curiosity is something it keeps us looking for what's going to happen, how this going to be, technology will be different than what I was using in past, so on and so forth. So make sure standard operating procedure and policies are created in Office 365 for specific technologies. Yeah, go ahead, Chirag.
Okay. So we have an interesting in-webinar offer for the attendees that we have with us today. You will have a link in the chat which Scott would paste shortly, and you can also use the QR code. Where it takes you is to our website, where we have a Lotus migration kit created for you. And what the kit contains is basically 3 artifacts. It has a migration planner, a migration checklist, and a migration case study where we talk about complex environment migration with zero downtime. So these are definitely things that you would it would be helpful for you when you're planning for your migration. So I think go ahead and grab the Lotus migration kit. And for the users who download this, we are also providing an hour of free consultation where we would like to come in and address any one of your key problems that you're facing today with your nodes migration. So that would be interesting session to understand, and if we can solve any one of your problem in that 1 hour, I think we would feel that we have been useful. So while you guys register and download the kit, I wanted Scott to just run another poll that we had for today. This is the last poll for today, so that would be it. So Scott, if you can help me run the second poll for today.
Okay, perfect. The second poll is up on your screens. The question is, which part do you believe is the most challenging during migration? So actually, you know what, I think I messed up on this poll. Go ahead and select the one. We wanted to select all of them that applied, but I messed up on the poll, so I do apologize. So pick the one that is you believe is the most challenging. We have over 70% of us have voted. Let's get over 80% and then I'll share the results. So we're almost there. Let's get one more vote out there. Come on, it won't hurt you to pick up the mouse. All right, I'm going to share the results. So 38% believe that preparation is the most challenging, 29% believe migration is the challenge, 14% believe that post-migration support is the most challenging aspect, and 19% believe end user support.
Excellent. So that's a fairly scattered audience or scattered set of perceptions from our audience today, and that is understood from our experience as well. It's similar to this. So thank you, Scott, for running the poll. So I would want to once again encourage everyone to go ahead and download the kit and go through it after this webinar. But while you do that, I also wanted to touch upon the topic of adoption and enablement, because some of you did reflect that end user adoption or after the post migration, having your end users supported and feeling enabled is a challenge. And I'm very confident that the ones of you who are in the planning phase would come to this stage sooner or later. So why is this extremely important? Because email is a critical part of your organization's IT. It is an important platform. It needs to be available, it needs to be usable, and it needs to be intuitive. Because it's email after all. We have been doing it for years. Now, the problem is that you are moving to a platform which is not just email. Although Lotus Notes was a powerful platform and did a lot, it allowed you to do a lot of things, but the center of it was mail and messaging. Whereas when you go to Office 365, like Gula pointed out sometime earlier, it's a beast in itself. There are n number of other functionalities which you would have to contain and give a path for your users to be able to navigate, have a known experience, have a knowledge of the platform, that what they should or should not do when they're trying to move to this new platform, and ensuring continuity of usage. Now, you definitely have to use email. You can't say that I don't like this platform, so I won't use it, but it is about effectiveness. How effective can you make your workforce in quickly ramping up and quickly being able to adopt a newer platform with minimum hassles. And that's where looking at this in a holistic manner is important. We generally look at it from a more broader adoption framework, which talks about different phases of planning that is involved. But what I wanted to point out here in this session is that even in a case like this, where there's a specific goal of migrating all the users, you cannot stop at just migrating the users. There has to be a special initiative to enable, and what you see on the screen is some of the tools or some of the leverages that we use to do that. The reason we do this is because the way you use a software, it forms a pattern of your behavior, and this, when repeated over a number of years, it becomes a habit, and it's very difficult to change habits. And if you want to do that change, it needs sustained effort, sustained messaging, where you need to create content, maybe videos or how to document or flyers, maybe enablement sessions, one-on-one sessions, or even expertise booths where you can host a booth where people can drop down and ask any specific challenge that they are facing with the platform. So all of this taken together is important to have your users enabled, up and running from day one on the target platform. Without this, believe me, there's a lot of confusion, because Gulab talked about one customer case where they opened the platform up and then had challenges. We have another one customer who have also done similar stuff where they've opened up a lot of features on Office 365, and every day they're hurting because every passing day the content as well as the ways the information is structured is becoming out of control. So there is a need to bring back control, and we are working with them now to sort of release these features in a structured manner rather than in a big bang approach. So with that, we have covered most of the discussion topics that we had, but for the benefit of the users, I had listed down a few key questions that we usually see from migration. And I know that we touched upon some of these topics during the webinar, Gulab. So you can skip the topics that or the question that you already addressed, but if there are others, I may request you to just do a rapid fire around these questions, because in the interest of time, we have maybe 5 minutes and a few minutes for
Sure.
question and answers. Yeah.
Sure. Thanks, Chirag. Okay. So I would like to know here is SSO, single sign-on. Do I really need single sign-on? If I do, what are the options do I have? Right. So single sign-on, I mean, for native, Microsoft provides single sign-on, ADFS. If other application you want to use, like Ping, yes, I can go with the Ping and other applications available. But the question is, do I really need it? It depends upon how and what are the requirement is, right? So is your organization is running already single sign-on and you want to continue? Yes, go ahead. I mean, if you're already using it, just go ahead and use it. And if you want to get rid of it, it's not going to harm anything. End of the day, it's going to be your decision. But if you use it, that means you're using it for the security purpose, right? So it depends upon what your requirement is, right? Next two question is very interesting. Mailing database migration. Another is, should I combine mailing databases and user mailbox migration in Office 365? Mailing databases, as we already know, is just like, shared mailbox, room mailbox, so on and so forth kind of mailboxes we know in IBM Notes. Do I need to migrate it? Oh yes, of course I need to migrate it. Now, how should I migrate it? Should I migrate it separately, or should I migrate it combined with my user mailbox? So this is the practice which we follow here at Maarga. Personally, myself is when I'm migrating a user from Notes to Office 365, I'll go ahead and create a report for that user that which other mailing databases like other mailboxes he has an access to, right? He has an sender's access or full access, because when this user is going to be in Office 365, he or she wants to have an access to the same mailbox which he or she had it in on-premises. So that is very important, and I really appreciate you go ahead and follow the practice, because if I migrate the user without his or her mailing databases or shared mailbox or room mailbox, they're going to have, okay, I'm not able to access it, there is some other issue. So the best practice is go ahead and combine it and migrate them together. Okay, other things we already spoken it. Thanks, Chirag. Okay, archive database migration. You want to migrate it or not? It depends upon how important is the data. I mean, today's world, data is very important. So now, given Office 365 gives me a leverage or an opportunity that I can have a big mailbox in Office 365, and if that fulfills your requirement, which includes your archive mailbox, archive database, then yes, go ahead and migrate that as well. Third-party application, encryption, and should I keep my third-party email gateway or just use Exchange online protection? Now, this is a very arguable question, right? So if you talk to somebody in a security or in your IT that, hey, can we go ahead and start using Exchange Online Protection, because now we are in 365, why do we need it? different person would have a different answer on that, right? They have their own thoughts on third-party gateway. They just don't want to use Exchange Online Protection. So what I have seen, what we have seen in Maarga, and what I have seen on all my years, that okay, when 75% client, when they move to Office 365, they don't want to, it's not like they don't want to rely on their on-premises anymore, but those relying on on-premises, they want to get rid of it as much as possible. So I have seen the customers been using Exchange Online Protection more and more. It's in a cloud running Microsoft. Microsoft updates definition almost every day. So when was the last time you heard that you had a bombardment, globally in Office 365 that, okay, we are getting a lot of spam messages and so on and so forth. So 75% I would say want to keep using only Exchange Online Protection, and 25% people want to use, hey, I want to have a 2-layer of protection, so I want to use third-party email gateway as well as I want to use Exchange Online Protection as well. Now, encrypted emails, migration. So how would I go ahead and migrate my encrypted emails? Okay, so the option is that I'll go ahead and decrypt those emails, and I'll go ahead and migrate it, right? Now, what happens to those encrypted emails, right? How I'm going to go ahead and start using encryption in Office 365. We have Azure IRMS in Office 365, which will help us to encrypt our email. So that has been already taken care of in 365. Is that how you need to configure it, what configuration you need, what kind of encryption you were using on premises. So it depends on that. There are a lot of options available. In Office 365, there are 2 plans, Plan 1 and Plan 2 in Azure IRMS. E3 license or subscription, and E5 already has encryption included in it. So third-party integration, we already spoke about it. Mail relay. Mail relay is one of the important aspects. I kept on saying that it's very important because every environment, I'm sure they would have some or the other application which is doing relay. So I would request you give more, extra, strong attention to mail relay, because trust me, relay is something it does not wait for anybody, right? If I'm using my third-party or on-premises relay application and it has an access to my partners, my clients, they will say, okay, we have been having issue, we're not receiving invoice, we're not receiving notification email, so on and so forth. So give more attention to mail relay when we're planning to migrate to Office 365. Chirag? And Chirag, you want to bring that question which we had from the user, or you want to continue it?
Yes, so I think we can take some of the questions because we are running the end of the hour. We are fine to extend it by a few minutes to answer the questions in this webinar if, Scott, you're fine with it.
Yes, I'm fine with that. That's fine.
Okay, so we had asked users if they want to send in questions beforehand to us in this webinar. We had two questions, so maybe Gulab, you can start answering these 2 questions, and Scott, if there are other questions, then you can ask them after this.
Sure. Thank you, Chirag. Okay, so this is a really, I am sure this question comes from a person who has been working with Notes since a long time. I can literally feel it, that this is a Notes kind of question. Now, Notes is known for its customization, right? So now this person wants to know, can we do the same thing what we were doing in Notes, like, attaching a document to Notes document and categorize this, 1,000 ways. Now in SharePoint, so what we are referring here is, in a SharePoint, we need some, a feature. Out of the box, this feature is not available in SharePoint, but there is a solution. There is an API available for SharePoint. For that, you need to have a skill and a knowledge in SharePoint and a PowerShell. So using the API, you can go ahead and create this script or an application, I would say, that will fulfill this requirement for the first question. And the second question I have is, this is more specifically to the development part. So if I am a developer and I wanna, have this feature available, I'm expecting this feature should be available in 365 as an end user also. To achieve this second one, Notes Scripts gives you a fantastic opportunity to keep one button that merges information from Notes document into a Word document. So this is basically somebody is looking for a button, which I go ahead and click on that. It should just go ahead and do its automation and merge it with Office 365 Word documents or any other document for that matter. So this is basically a question specifically for the developers, and that is the reason in the market we have a lot of third-party players available. They help creating these applications. So
Okay,
that's how these questions are. As I said
thanks,
before,
Gulab.
this is coming from a hardcore notes guy. I'm sure about it.
Okay, thank you, Gulab, for that. Scott, are there any other questions from the attendees today?
We do have one other additional question so far. So the question is, how do you manage encrypted emails? So I'm not sure if they're
Right.
meaning for the migration or
Mhm.
just how is it different in Office 365? So
Okay, so managing encrypted, right? So if I want, there are two stages. Basically, this question would have a two portion in it. So probably how would I migrate encrypted emails? Or if I migrated my email, how I'm going to manage it, right? So if I want to encrypt that email, which I have migrated from Notes to Office 365, how are you going to encrypt it? So the only way to encrypt it is that, of course, I have to go ahead and get my encryption enabled in Azure IRMS, create the transport rule for that, and I have to go ahead and send that email again. Right? That is the one out-of-the-box solution we have. Now, next is if you want to encrypt that specific email, you don't want to send it as an email to encrypt it, then you have to go with the third-party solution for that. That there is a content, there is an email, I want to encrypt it. The solution with Office 365 is you have to go ahead and send it as an encrypted email again.
right.
So otherwise you have to go for the third-party solution to encrypt that email basically.
Okay, perfect. So this Andrea clarified is how to migrate an encrypted email to Office 365.
Okay, to migrate that email is you have to go ahead and decrypt that email first because you cannot migrate encrypted emails, right? So you have to decrypt that email. Once the email is decrypted, then you can migrate it. Now to decrypt that email, whatever application you were using to encrypt it, you can use the same application to decrypt that email. So when decryption is done, you can go ahead and straight away migrate the mailbox or email.
Okay, brilliant.
Mhm.
All right. Well, we are at a little bit time over. There's uh, is there? Oh, so the follow-up question to this: is there a third-party tool that can go through and decrypt all of the emails? Um, because otherwise, if you have thousands of emails that are encrypted,
Mhm.
it'd be impossible to manually do it. So, are there third-party tools that can do that?
Oh, absolutely. So the answer to that question is yes, there are applications available. Symantec is one of the vendor known for their encryption application. Now, keep in mind that if I am using application X to encrypt my email, and I'm trying to use application Z to decrypt that email, it might not work because it's going to need the same application to decrypt those emails, right? That is the one way. Now, okay, I don't want to get into those hassles now. I mean, decrypting and all those things. The best solution, if you don't want to do those things, just export it to the PST, right? Import into the PST in that user mailbox in Office 365. Now, the question would be, how would I do it if there are multiple users, right? So there is a tool available, Azure tool, where we can go ahead and export the PST from the mailbox, upload into the Azure, then go ahead and import it back into user mailbox in Office 365.
Okay. So
Mm-hmm.
it's that's not necessarily the easiest thing to do, but there are ways to get it
Yep.
done.
Yes.
All right. Perfect. Well, great. Um, Thank you very much for preparing this webinar.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure there's a lot of people who want to see next phases of hey, how do you really get all the details done? Um, but this has been great, very informative. So thank you for your
Mm-hmm.
time. So Chirag, I'll turn the time back over to you for the last word, just to remind people how to contact you. Then we'll end.
Yes, thank you, Scott. Yeah, thank you, Scott. So obviously the details to contact us are on your screen. You can drop in us a note or you can call us up. What I wanted to just close today's session and leave you with is that we are trying to cover as many generic areas, because this is a vast topic. We cannot cover everything in the depth that we wish to, but we have tried to touch upon some of these detailed topics around security or around SSO and things like that. If you want to know more about how this would be done or what I should use to do this, I think that is something that we can definitely help you answer if you drop us a note. So just make sure that you note down our details on the screen.
All right, perfect. Well, thank you very much again, and we'll please watch your emails for a link to watch the replay and to be able to share this, and we'll go from there. Again, thank you very much, everyone, and have a great day.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Gulab.
Thank you, everyone. Appreciate everyone joining the call today. Thank you.
Thank you, Gulab. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Scott.